everyone? It's Wednesday night, and welcome back to the Masters Muscle Podcast. Vinny is back. We're excited. Tonight's guest has been through a lot of adversity. She has been down, but now she's up, and she's ready to kick butt and take names at the Masters Olympia. Vinny, please introduce our guest.
Hey, before I introduce Cheryl and her story, I just want to let everybody know if you got any strange messages from me on Instagram yesterday, I was hacked, and my new Instagram is Vinny_Galanti_. So getting that out of the way. So last year at the Masters Daytona Pro was actually I saw you, Cheryl, at the Tampa with your coach and your whole team, and then I saw you guys again in Daytona, and that's when I noticed something different about you. And we'll get into that in a second. But, you know, Cheryl has been through more shit than the average person. 2017, you battled breast cancer. In 2018, you earned your pro status at the Masters Nationals. And then 2020, you had colon issues, having an intestinal twist resulting in a permanent colostomy bag. And you compete with that. So, Cheryl, welcome to Masters Muscle Podcast. And how did you get into competing? How did you get started? Did you start in another sport? Talk to me. Talk to us.
Yeah. Actually, I started to get into bodybuilding through CrossFit later on in life. When I was younger, I loved basketball, baseball, all of those kind of things. But then I got away from that for a few years, raised a family, you know, things of that nature. And then later on in life, around 2015, I was going through a divorce. So I'm like, hey, I want to get in shape a little bit, feel better about myself kind of thing. And so I started CrossFit around end of 2015. So some of the ladies there were competing in bikini. And that was my first exposure to like bodybuilding and competition. And I thought it was very interesting, but I'm like, there's no way in hell I can go on stage and do that. There's just no way. I can't do that. I'm a mom, you know, I don't do that kind of stuff, you know. So as I got to know these ladies better, I was very interested, but bikini just didn't seem the right fit for me. Figure was something a little bit more, let's say, my forte at that time. So it started around 2016, and then the Europa Games were coming to town in Orlando, Florida, April of that year. So the ladies around January started getting ready for the show. And then I decided to hire a coach just to start learning how to bodybuild, because CrossFit, as you know, is a little bit different than bodybuilding. So I wanted to get more into that aspect of it. So a good friend of mine at the time, she was doing the show. She's like, Cheryl, you got to do the show with me. And I'm like, sure, why not? No big deal, right? So 3 weeks before the show, and I laugh at what I just did, what I'm going to tell you that I did now, knowing the prep life and actual bodybuilding. So 3 weeks out, I get on my phone and I text my coach and I go, hey, there's a show coming to town. It's Europa Games. And in 3 weeks, I'd like to compete at that. Do you think you can get me ready? Because my friend really wants me to be on stage when she's backstage. And, you know, I'm going through all of this. And I can only imagine what this lady was thinking of this text. Like, we haven't even started anything and you want to compete in 3 weeks. So exactly. I mean, it's crazy.
I get that all the time.
But I had no clue. My heart was in it for my friend. She wanted me to go. I'm like, of course, no big deal, right? So, you know, she texted me back and she's like, you know, that's really not a lot of time, you know, and she's trying to be nice about it. But she says, if you really want to do it, here's what I plan to do for the next 3 weeks. And basically she just killed me with cardio. I mean, because what can you do at this point, right? Knowing what bodybuilding and the real prep life is. So I did the show, had a fantastic time. I fell in love with the sport. And it was a 2-day show. So we, the first day, you know, we went on stage and I felt that I didn't do my best, obviously, but I just fell in love with it. So I told my friend, I said, I don't care what I place, I'm getting into bodybuilding. This is an awesome life. I just love this stuff. So then the next day, I actually ended up getting third at novice, and I was just like, whoa, that's just like awesome, you know. So I just got it like really addicted to the sport, and I said, now let me train properly and do the right things for my next show. So I always had the mentality, go big or go home. So I'm like, we're going to Masters Nationals. We're going to go for that pro card. Unfortunately, my coach had disbanded the team at the end of 2016 for personal reasons. So I had to find another coach, and that worked out well. So we started prepping beginning of 2017. And then it was in March of that year. I had this little growth on my chest. I had it for like 2 years. I always got the mammograms and ultrasounds and nothing ever came up. But I just didn't like that look. So I went to a doctor and I said, listen, you got to get rid of this. I'm going to nationals. I want to get my pro card. I just don't want this thing on there. And she goes, oh, we got to get that off right away. That's cancerous. And I'm like, listen.
Oh, geez.
You don't have x-ray vision, okay? I'm so focused on my show. I go, I got to train today. So she goes, how about this? We do a biopsy. And I'm like, sure, whatever. So we do a biopsy. I got an appointment the following Monday to see her. And I'm like, I'm canceling that appointment because, you know, it's an hour away. I'm fine. I'm going to be good. So I called to cancel the appointment. And they're like, no, you need to come it down. Well, obviously, I know what they're going to tell me. And when I came in, it was worse than I thought. It was triple negative breast cancer, one of the worst ones that you could have because how aggressive it is and how fast acting. So obviously, I changed my mindset from competing to battling breast cancer. But throughout the whole process, I maintained my diet as best as I could through the surgeries and all that. I did not have radiation or chemo, though. There's a story behind that. But at the end of the day, when they were able to surgically remove everything, I just felt that that avenue was not for me. Even though I did get the chemo port put in just in case we were going to go down that road, I just felt it wasn't for me. So we're looking at maybe July timeframe, and I go to my coach, who I probably just started with a few months ago. I said, hey, let's go do a show. Let's go prep for a show. And she's probably thinking I'm nuts. But I'm like, I know we missed out on, Masters Nationals and all that, but let's go do a show. Let's show life I can kick its ass and just have some fun on stage. So we did 2 shows. We did Southeastern in Orlando, October, and then we went to the Clash, which used to be in St. Augustine, the next month. And I got a lot of second and third places in figure, and it was just amazing. I'm going through a battle with breast cancer, and at the end of the year, I'm on stage with an incredible lineup of ladies that I can't say enough. They just inspired me. So I said, okay, now we're done for the season, but next year I'm getting that pro card. Nothing's going to stop me going for that pro card. And so me and my coach, we make a plan, and here we go. July the next year. It was exactly July 1st. I think the show was July 18th. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting in my kitchen and I'm eating my food. And unfortunately, it was eggs at the time. And all of a sudden, I had the worst stomach pain ever. My intestines just locked up. Just locked up. So got rushed to the emergency room. And fortunately, they were able to, open everything up. And I was fine. Gained about 5 pounds of water weight and quickly lost that. And 18 days later, went on that stage in Pittsburgh, got the pro card. And I won it actually in 2 divisions, in over 45 and over 50. And I'm just like, it's freaking amazing, So I'm falling more and more in love with this sport. Oh,
so wait, let's back up 1 second, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Hold on, I just got a question. So you went in for a small procedure at that time? And
No, I didn't go in for a procedure at all. It was, I had a blockage, and they were able to just with fluids and stuff and relax that everything cleared up. So there was no procedure or anything at that time.
And Cheryl, you get your pro card. How many contests had you done before getting your pro card?
Let me see. 1, 2, 5.
5. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, 5 shows.
That's great.
Before doing the getting my pro card. Sort of lost track where I was at. All right, so I got the pro card and everything was, you know, I was just happy. But the thing I forgot to mention, when I started prep for my pro card, I was figure, but I really loved women's physique. So a week after we had started prep, I went to my coach and I go, hey, let's do women's physique. Let's have some fun with it. So she's like, okay, we'll train for that. And I did 6 classes. I did 4 in women's physique and I did 2 in figure. I said, I'm not coming home without my pro card. I said, I'm doing this. So I did, 50, 45, 40, and 35 in women's physique. So every time we went on stage, I'd run backstage, I'd be in line again. And it was just like constant. And I was so tired by the time I did all those 4 that when we got to the figure classes, my body was done. I just gave up. It's like, I'm done. But I still kept competing, of course. But at that point, I felt confident that in over 45 and 50, I got my pro card. And it was confirmed, of course, later that night. So I was very happy that I made that decision because in my gut, I was more women's physique. And as you can tell, I love the building of muscle and I love that part of it. So I just wanted to keep advancing. So 2019 comes, I did 2 shows in 2019, both in women's physique. And I think I got around 7th place in one show, 12th in another. You know, it kind of was definitely a difference between the amateur level and the pro level. So welcome to the pro level. And now I'm getting used to what the pros have to go through. So it was eye-awakening, but I was ready for that challenge. So 2020 comes and I'm like, let's go, let's bring this. So we start training in January. And then of course, we all remember COVID hits March of that year. Some of the gyms closed. You know, it was just kind of hard times for a lot of people. So 2 months later, the gyms open. And of course, I'm one of the first ones at my gym. Let's go. May, you know, comes running around at the gym the whole time. And then the unfortunate part happens for me. And this is where my life changed drastically. So the way I look at my bodybuilding life, I have the 3 years before 2020 and then the after 2020 where I'm at now. So it was exactly June 18th and I went to work. Hardly anyone was there because most people are working from home due to COVID. And it was leg day and I love leg day. Anyone says you want to work legs, I'm there. It's just my favorite, you know, thing to work. So
you're a rarity by saying that. Nobody ever said, no bodybuilder ever says that. Except Vinny. I think Vinny likes leg day too, though. Vinny's our oddball too.
I love leg day. I mean, I just love like quads and working glutes. I don't know. I'm one of those insane people. So all of a sudden, I'm just not feeling good. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm just not feeling right. And for me, not to go from work to the gym says something. So I came home and I laid down for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, my abs just like, you could see every line in them, which was odd. And they just hurt. So I'm texting my coach and I'm like, listen, this is the way I'm feeling. I'm not sure what's going on. And my coach is like, just drink water. You're probably dehydrated. All right. So I start drinking water, but it's not going away. It's just feeling worse. And at some point, I think I passed out, but I remember waking up to like one of the most excruciating pains. And I screamed to my daughter, you got to get me to the hospital. And my daughter, I love her dearly. She's like 100 pounds, thin as a rail. Here I am, 155 pounds, 5 weeks out from show. I'm buff, I'm muscular, and I can't walk. And somehow she gets me to the car. We drive to the hospital. And because it's COVID, no one's allowed in the hospital with you. So they put me in a wheelchair, put me in a room. That's the only thing I remember when I woke up. So what happened between that time and when I woke up, they said that I had an intestinal twist, and my intestines are just twisting away. And when they twist, you can't untwist them. The only thing you can do is cut them out. So they called my daughter up. She said it was like 3 a.m. and said they told her, if we don't do this surgery, she'll die. And if we do the surgery, she may still end up dying. But we have no choice. And she's 19. And I'm sorry, she's always depended on me for those big life decisions. And now the only person who could answer that is in a coma. They put me into a temporary state that way because I was in so much pain that I couldn't, talk for myself. And of course, she made the decision, to go ahead and do what, had to be done. So they did the first surgery, and I almost died during that because my blood pressure had just plummeted. So they took me out, they put me in a room, and they allowed her to see me. And she said, I've never been so scared in my life, because she goes, you were laying there with the sheet up to here because I was still open. And she goes, you look like you were in the morgue. She goes, it's a scene that I never want to see again. And then after my blood pressure went up, they finished that surgery. Then they did another surgery. So it's like a 2-part where they removed all of the twisted intestines. And then the second part is the bag that they place on my stomach, Vinny, that you were kind of mentioning before, that you had seen. So that's part of what they did. So I woke up not knowing any of this. I'm laying in a room. I could barely see. I'm hurting all over. I'm laying there. I can't move. And I can tell I'm in a hospital. I could tell there's medical people around me. You can hear the buzzers and, all that kind of stuff. But it scared me because behind me, there were some people talking. And one of them said, poor thing, she's probably not going to make it through the night. Oh, so I'm laying there. No one's holding my hand. No family. There's nobody there for me. But I'm probably going to die. And I don't even know what happened at this point. I'm clueless. And by some miracle, I survived. But I remember thinking, I'm like, I can't move. I don't have a phone. I can't see hardly anything. What can I do to save myself? Because at this point, they're thinking I'm a goner. I still don't even know what the hell's going on with me. But I just, in my gut, and no pun intended here, my gut, I just didn't feel it was my time, whatever it was, kind of thing. So in my head, I'm like, Cheryl, you gotta be aware of what's going around you and try to figure out what the hell's going on and save yourself. That was my mindset. And I'm so glad I had that mindset, because if I just had that one little doubt in my head that said, there's nothing you can do, just give into it, just relax, I probably wouldn't be here today. And I swore that wouldn't have happened.
Cheryl, was it just your intestines that were affected? Gallbladder, anything else? Everything else was fine. Just the intestines themselves.
The major thing was the intestines. I did have a 9-centimeter mass on my liver from all of it, because of all the damage that had gotten done because of the intestines later on they found. But it was the intestines that they had to cut. So to give you a gravity of the situation of where I'm at now. So there's a lot of people out there that have ileostomies, and most of them have it because their colon is removed, but they have all of their small intestine, which means you can process most of your nutrients. Mm-hmm. And that's great. For me, on the other hand, I'm not as fortunate. I've only got 9 feet of intestines period left, which is hardly any absorption abilities whatsoever. Wow. I may get about 10 minutes before my food starts processing. Most of it doesn't even get absorbed, like vitamins. I can't even take vitamins that are pills because there's not enough absorption time. So they say, statistically speaking, when you go down to 4.5 feet of intestines, you can only be on liquid. So what they do is like a chemo port. They put a port, you put liquids in, and that's the remainder of your life for the next 3 to 5 years, because you can't live on liquid food. But when you have that little intestines, you can't eat anymore. Your body just can't absorb it. So I don't even know how the hell I'm doing it right now with 9 feet of intestines, but I'm grateful for everything that I have. So anyway, so that's what happened in the hospital. And they still didn't expect me to make it. So it was about a week or so later that I started gaining consciousness. I started understanding things. And I got to tell you this little story of when they explained what happened to me. I'm lying in the bed. I'm feeling like death. I could give a damn less what any doctor has to say. So this doctor comes in, and I call him Skippy. He was this young guy, and he's talking, and in my head, you remember Charlie Brown, Linus, and it's like that wah, wah, wah kind of thing. So when the doctor's talking to me, all I'm hearing is wah, wah, wah. That's all I'm hearing. I'm not caring what he's saying, except when he goes like this. And we took the ileostomy, and we created the intestine to come out of your stomach, and we put it on your lower ab. Now, I could not say anything because I didn't have the strength, but in my head, I'm screaming, what the fuck? You doing that to my abs? Do you know I have to go on stage? There's no way in hell. I don't want this thing. And I'm like, in my head, I'm screaming like crazy, you know, because only 5 weeks ago, I was going to show. And now the whole world's changed, you know, and it was just like, wow, this is insane. But I just never gave up hope. My thing was like, Cheryl, this is your life now. You got to figure out what you're going to do, because you're not going to let this beat you. There was no way in heck. And I remember this one nurse gave me hope. And this is my definition of hope. I couldn't see my phone, but when I was laying there and I'm going like this, one of the nurses had left the phone on my chest. And I picked it up, but I couldn't still see it. My vision was really off because of everything that I had been through. And I remember just punching the phone, punching it like, oh, God, somebody please, you know, pick up. And my daughter answered, and I'm sorry, it still touches me today. And she was like, Mom, you're okay? And I'm like, yes, I am. And it was hard for me to talk. And she starts saying, Mom, I'm so sorry for everything. I didn't want to put you through this. And she's acting like this is all her fault. And I'm like, honey, this has nothing to do with you. You did nothing wrong. And she's like, and this made me like smile so much inside. She goes, Mom, you were so close to show. She goes, we're going to get you out of the hospital. We're going to get you better. And you're going to be back on that stage because you love this lifestyle. Nothing's going to stop you. And she's like encouraging me. And it was such a relief to hear that from her. And I think that was one of the reasons why I fought so hard, to have her in my corner, to believe in me like that. So I spent about 2 months in the hospital at that point, because my body had to learn how to eat again, how to digest stuff again. You know, this is a whole different world. Everything was just coming out of me like crazy. Nothing was staying in.
Cheryl, do you know what causes this?
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
They told me that the kind of intestinal twist that I had, how quickly it happened, they said only 2% of the people ever get it, and it's always fatal. They still don't even know how I lived through that. They're clueless.
You probably lived through it because you had so much muscle mass on you.
I believe that was the reason.
Yeah.
And when I got to the point where I was able to eat again, they put this crap, excuse my language, crap in front of me. It's like mashed potatoes and meatloaf and peas, and it's hospital food. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, in my head, I'm not eating this. I know what's going to happen. This is not going to make me healthy. No way. So I refuse to eat. And they're like, Cheryl, you got to eat. You got to eat. So I'm texting my daughter. I go, listen, I want you to go to the gym and get me protein powder and protein bars. This is what I want. And she brought it to the hospital. She couldn't give it to me, but you know, the security guard gets it and brings it to me. And I said to myself, I said, protein synthesis is the most important thing to building muscle. And I truly believe in that. And here I am. I was 155 pounds. I left the hospital at 120. No muscle
Wow.
mass. I was thin as a rail. It just quickly ate, you know, everything that I had. So I knew to get healthy, I needed to put muscle on, not for bodybuilding's sake, but just to survive. So that's why I started doing the protein. And I could feel that I was getting so much better with just the protein bars and shakes. But because my absorption is so quick, I don't drink them as shakes. I make them like sludge. It's like a
Yep.
little bit of water and protein powder because it goes through me so quickly. So I have to slow that down. And I learned that the hard way. So those things were really helping me along. So now I'm at a point where I'm able to eat again. Things are staying in. My body's starting to become stable. That's great. But now you've got the mental aspect of it. You've lost all your muscle mass. You wear a bag for the rest of your life. You can't take a pill. You can't go, you know, I don't want to deal with this today. It's there 24/7. How do you wake up in the morning and see that every day and not get discouraged, not get depressed, not fall down? And it was hard. It really was. But I did it because I just felt that somebody out there can use my strength. So I used that as a strength to get better and better. So 2 months in the hospital, 2 months at home. And then I said, okay, Cheryl, you're going to get off the couch and you're going to do little things. So I just did little things like get up and wash a dish, you know, little things like that. And then after that, I said, you know what? You've got to start getting back into your routine. So I texted my coach and I said, guess what? I'm sending you check-in pics. And I guarantee you she thought I was nuts. But my mindset was, you know, I got to get back to a normal routine. I did not expect her to look at these pictures and go, man, look at all those gains you made. I knew that wasn't going to happen. But I knew at some point this was going to help me out. And I started at 6 a.m. to take these pics. I got my suit on and I wasn't able to take them till about 3 or 4 in the afternoon because I was so weak. And every time I stood up, I got tired. You know, I took a nap.
Yeah.
So I finally took the pictures and I cried because it was the first time I had seen what my body actually looked like. And it was horrific to me. It was really like, are you ever going to get like better? And so I decided no self-pity. You're not going to do all of that kind of stuff. You're just going to keep going. So I started training at home, just little things, little 5-pound weights, walking. I had a Smith machine in my garage, so I would just use the bar without any weights, you know. So I slowly started getting into shape, if you will. So then I decided it's time to go to the gym. Now, I did not post on Instagram what happened to me. Okay. So I walk into the gym, 6 months later, I look like death compared to what I look like. No one would talk to me.
Jeez.
Not because they didn't want to, they didn't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because the last time they saw me, I was ready for show. And now I look so bad. And no one knew what to say.
Yeah.
And it was one of the hardest things to encounter. I mean, you go from almost dying to your body being changed to this a permanent ileostomy for the rest of your life. You can't absorb nutrients. You've got all of these challenges, and now you've got to face the world. And it was so heartbreaking. I remember going to the gym, and I could squat, but I couldn't move the bar this way because my abs were still healing, but I can go up and down. I went over to the rack, and all the bars were standing up. So I had to go to somebody at the gym, and I started to cry, and I go, could you please take one of these bars and put them on the rack for me? I just cried. I'm like, 6 months ago, I was a badass bodybuilder, and now I've got to ask somebody for help. And it just hurt me so bad. But I did it, and it was just friggin' phenomenal. So slowly, every week, I would go to the gym, and I had to be careful of this because I could hurt myself. I'm still weak. I've got intestines literally out of my body all the time. So now I'm trying to train to get stronger, and I've got this. And it was kind of do it like one of these kind of jobs, you know, it was just like crazy. But I got through it. And I'm very proud of myself for that, because there's nobody out there that really was able to help me go through all of this. A bodybuilder with an ostomy who wants to get back and doesn't have the absorption capabilities. I mean, I can list all the negative things, but the most positive thing out of it was I never gave up hope, and I kept moving on, and I didn't care about the negative comments anyone had to say. So I kept going. And then all of a sudden, it's a year later, and my body is there. It's like, I'm going to do a show. And I'm like, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm excited. Now, I'm not expecting to be the best on stage, but it's like, I promised I was going to get on stage at the hospital, and now's the right time to do it. So go to my coach, we get a plan going. And then all of a sudden, I think it was like maybe a week later, I get an email saying, it was nicely written, but at the end of the day, it was, you need to find a new coach.
Oh boy,
and
okay.
I was devastated.
Why did she do that? Because she didn't believe in you?
I don't know.
Or is it maybe because your health, and maybe she didn't know how to handle somebody in your health status?
I don't know. It was more of like, I asked a lot of questions. I was looking for help. And it was more like, hey, if you want to come back for lifestyle, I'm good. But for competition, I think it's best that you find another coach. And it hurt.
Sure,
But
I understand.
I said to myself, you know, some people don't see your vision.
I get it.
They don't see it. So I said, you could be sad for one day. I let myself be sad for one day. And then I said, Cheryl, get off your ass, find another coach, get on that stage. Because it wasn't about a trophy. It was about my mental state.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't get back on that stage, I don't know where I'd be today. I don't think I'd be as strong as I am today. So I did it. And when I got on stage, I felt like, you're back. This is
so. What coach did you choose?
Mear.
And that was the first person you worked with?
Yes. To get me to Atlantic Coast in 21.
And then now you're with Clay.
Correct. So when Yasin, I think I always say the name incorrectly because there's like a different pronunciation of it. But anyway, when I was with him, he was nice, but he wasn't really pushing me, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I think it could have been the condition. You know, we're scared. We don't know what she's going to be. And I couldn't have somebody like that. And no disrespect. That has nothing to do with disrespect there. But for me, I know my body. You're a coach. You do your job. And we work together. If I think I can't do something, let me tell you that, and we work it in. That's what I need. But if you're hesitant, it's best that you don't coach me.
Yep.
Because we're not going to do each other good. So after the show, I said to myself, I'm done with coaches right now. I said, you know, I just want to take a step back, and I don't want to quit bodybuilding. I want to keep going. I know the areas that I need to fix and grow, but I need a break. So I talked to my friend Nicolette, and she's in the healthcare, and she's a coach as well out there. And she's like, Cheryl, I know your frustration. I know what you're trying to fix. because we used to be on the same team, we've been friends for years. And she goes, "You got to talk to Clay." And in my head, I'm like, I really don't know this man I didn't know him well at the time, but I reached out to him because I trusted her. But my mindset was this: I'm not trusting the process anymore. You proved the process to me. So I kind of feel bad for him when I talk to him. I'm like, listen, I don't want you to be my coach. I have this one area that I want you to help me with. And if you can help me, I would greatly appreciate that. And he immediately said, listen, Nicolette told me about you. I checked out your pictures online. And he immediately said, this is your problem that I feel that you have. And we immediately had this rapport. We were able to talk about training and the things that were on my mind that I felt that I could be doing differently. And he validated that. So for the first month, we said, let's prove the process. And within that month, and it was my glutes, by the way, that we were focused on, I saw immediate change, a change I've never seen before. Now, I'm not saying I was show ready, don't get me wrong, but I saw the improvement. And when I saw that, I said, you're going to be my coach. Let's do this. So we started a little bit of a building season, but we were more focused on going through a prep together and my conditioning to see how well my body could handle that. Because you have to realize, guys, in 2020, I almost died. 21, I did get on stage, but it wasn't a hard prep, okay? Now we're going to do a serious prep. And can my body handle it? Of course, we've got that concern. And how the foods and different things going to handle. So that was our main focus. And every week as we're getting closer to the show, and Tampa Pro was my first show, I was like, I'm amazed. The plan's working. I'm able to keep up. And the conditioning I brought was insane. And I'm like, wow, this was a miracle. It was a miracle season for me, from where I had just came from to this. So we go backstage, we're pumping up and getting ready to do masters. I did over 55, 50, and 40, I think it was, the three of them. So me and Michelle Brent, we competed at the 55 and 50 level. And so I'm on stage with her, and I'm just grateful to be on stage. And and by the way, I forgot to mention, this is the first time I ever did women's bodybuilding, because I did women's physique. So when I went with Clay, I said, I want to be a bodybuilder. I don't want to do women's physique anymore. I want to hold my hand, I want to do that kind of stuff. I want to do a lat sprint. And he just laughed at me. He's like, hey, if we're going to go big, let's do it. So we did it. And I'm on stage, and I won both of them. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. Wow. And it was just so surreal for me. And I'm like, I found a team that believes in me. We work together. And that's all I could ask for. And it was just phenomenal to me.
That's
so
awesome.
And ever since then, Clay and I have had just such a bond. There's some things I've had to tell him with my bag. It'll be like, dude, you gave me this food, but I'm telling you, it doesn't even stay in my system. And he's probably shaking his head. I've never, ever had somebody tell me that before, but we work around it, and that's what I like. He believes in what I tell him, because I do follow the plan. But if something just doesn't work out, it's because of my condition, not because, I decided to cheat over the weekend or something, because I'm very dedicated to the sport. And also to life, because one of the things now is that I eat to live. And it's kind of follows the bodybuilding mindset too, because if I eat junk, my body's going to start to deteriorate. I don't have that luxury anymore. Even having one or two crappy meals, I don't, because my body feels it. It only has a certain amount of time to absorb nutrients. And if I don't absorb them, my body's going to start sliding, downhill. And I don't want that. So
what I love about you?
What's that?
Cheryl, what I love about you is my own thinking is the same exact as what you're doing and saying. where, you know, you are focusing on what you can do, not focusing on what you can't do. And there's so many people out there, I'm sure you talk to, because I do all the time, because this is not my story right now, but I've kind of like had similar situations that you're talking about. I had rotator cuff surgery and came back from that. And so many people are like, oh, you're an inspiration. How do you do it? And my main thing is I always say, focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. And I love your message. I mean, it's just so inspiring how you're not having a pity party for yourself. I mean, we all do for a day, whatever, get over it, right? But you're not focusing on it. And I think that is why you're having the success you're having. And you're going to the Masters Olympia in Romania.
Isn't that awesome incredible?
This is going to be nuts, right? We're both going. I can't wait to see you on stage again.
What I think is incredible, Vinny, about Masters Olympia, okay? When back in 2020, you know, when I almost died, and then I got back on stage in 21, I always said I'm going to write a book about my story. But it just wasn't the right time. I said to myself, it's not the right time. Focus on your health and your family and all that. I'm like, yeah. So I do that, but still people are following me. They're reaching out to me. They're DMing me their stories and how I've inspired them. And many people who have gone through what I've gone through are like, you're an inspiration. You know, I'm following your lead. It just blows my mind. So I know what I'm doing is the right thing. So now 2022 comes up, and I win at what do you call it? Tampa Pro. I go to Daytona Pro, and I get I win the over 55 in women's physique. But the most inspiring thing is I get the Inspirational award from Michael, from his friend who passed away from ALS. Paul Bingham. Hopefully, I don't know why I think I say the last name wrong, but I got my first sword from that, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. But I got the award not for something that I did on stage, but just for being me, for kicking ass and just continuing despite the odds, and I think that's amazing. So now I'm like, wow, this is an amazing season. So now we come into 23, and I didn't know about Olympia Masters in the beginning of January. I heard about it, I think it was sometime in March. So I'm like, nah, I don't know if I can do that, you know, and I'm doubting. But then I said to myself, all this stuff I've been through, hell with it. I'm just going to put my application in. What's the worst? They could say no, right?
Yep.
And then when I saw my name third on that list, I know they did it, you know, in alpha order. And Elena like said my name. I was actually driving in the car because I thought I was getting pizza. I was going to enjoy the announcement, and I was running a few minutes behind. So I put it on my car, and I figured, they're not going to announce women's bodybuilding into the end. And it did it as the first thing. And I'm in my car, and I'm hearing it, and I'm screaming, and I'm crying, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, I got on this. And it was just like so exciting. So now, 3 years ago, I almost died, and I'm going to step on one of the most biggest bodybuilding stages in the world. How friggin' amazing is that? What a story. I mean, a story that says, no matter what, don't give up.
Absolutely.
That is the key right there.
Yeah. We had Michelle Brandt on 2 weeks ago, and the same thing. I mean, obviously your stories are different, but again, at her age, and she's looking forward to, and, you know, putting that kind of icing on the cake for her as well.
Yes. Of course, we met at Tampa, and we've stayed friends ever since. We just had this bond. Yeah.
So I got a question for you. So you're telling us how difficult it is to eat. Give us an example of what a meal would consist of. Like give us everything. Your protein, your carb.
Well, a meal is not like a typical meal is not really different from most bodybuilding meals, okay? Because you've got your chicken, you got your rice, and I don't eat a lot of veggies. Usually it's just broccoli because most of them will get stuck in my system. And of course I don't want that. So it's basically the same thing that you guys will eat, you know, whether it's 93.7 beef, lean turkey, those are the things that I eat.
But how many ounces? How much in portion size?
I'm trying to think. Well, now there's hardly anything because, you know, we're close to the show. But it could be like 200 grams of rice, 4 to 6 ounces of protein, cup of veggies,
Okay, so
you know, that kind of thing.
So you can
eat. So fortunately, I've moved up to that. But here's the kicker, okay? Let's say before the gym you eat, okay? And for me, the absorption doesn't last long. So most people, they'll eat, what, like 45 minutes before the gym, and then they'll start to work out, right? For me, I eat maybe 10, 15 minutes before the gym. Why? Because the foods go through me quickly, and then they start going into my bag very slowly. So when I'm at the gym, I wear a wrap, not to hide this, just to keep it a little bit more secure to me. So now I'm going to use squatting as an example because squatting puts so much pressure on you, right? So I just ate, 10, 15 minutes later, I'm ready to squat. So I do my squats and you put a lot of pressure on your body, right? Well, for me, that means pushing out a lot of food, which goes into my bag. I'm running into the bathroom, emptying, coming back from my 2.5 minute break, and I'm squatting again. That's my gym lifestyle. I'm going in and out to the bathroom because you don't want your bag to fill up. If it does, it's going to rupture and then you're going to make a mess. And do you really want to mess at the gym? And now you're dealing with cleaning up and all that. So I had to learn how to work out effectively, be able to monitor my bag, make sure it doesn't get to a point where it's problematic, and still be able to train as heavy as I do. So I finally, within 6 months, got that kind of rotation down. But I'm constantly busy in the gym. I'll either be on that machine or I'll be running to the bathroom to empty. So I don't have the luxury of hanging out in between sets and talking to people just because my mind is always focused on one of the other things. But I refuse to give up and not go to the gym and not build muscle. I refuse.
So Cheryl, if your body's absorbing things quicker, maybe I'm thinking the wrong process. Do you need to eat more to get like a full dosage of vitamins, minerals, protein, and everything else? Like almost double the recommendation dosage, if I'm asking that correctly? Does that make sense?
You're asking it correctly. And the recommended is 2 to 3 times the food of an average person.
Okay. So you're doing that?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm probably doing about maybe 1.5 to 2.
Okay.
But the issue, because I have very little intestines, it's always coming out. It's like if you think about a dripping faucet and you're filling a balloon and it's slow and slow, then all of a sudden it gets bigger and bigger. That's my life. There's always dripping. So the more food you're eating, the more that's going to continue. So now you got to balance between eating and processing versus having the time to actually lift some weights.
But is there a way to find out the foods? Like, will a complex carb, like a starch, absorb a little bit slower than a simple sugar, or does it really not even matter?
It does matter. Your slower complex carbs are going to absorb much better. And also your leaner cuts of meat will process better. So for me, I can't do steak, it's too tough. I can't do sushi, it's too tough. Those kind of things are out for me. So I'm okay with the basic meats, if you will. I can't do tacos, or I can't do beans or seeds or anything like that because all of that gets stuck. So that's basically it. And then when I drink my intra carbs, I've noticed they go through too quickly. And I don't get that rush of the carbs that I'm supposed to. So sometimes I'll suck on candy to do that because that'll stay in my system longer. But then when you're getting to cutting, now how do you cut and not do that at the same time? So it's a balancing act. It really is.
So if you use protein powder, do you use more casein, which is more slower than a typical whey?
It depends on how my body's processing that day. Sometimes I'll do the casein, and sometimes I'll do the whey isolate. But I always make it thick as a paste. I will never drink it because it's a waste at that point.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And one of my vices, one of the few vices that I have is coffee. I love coffee. But as soon as I drink it, it's out of me. It is. But I will drink a cup here and there because, you know, we all have something that we enjoy in life, and that's what I enjoy.
What about mixing protein powder inside with cream of rice before a workout? Can you do that?
Oh, I do that all the time.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's one of my staples before a gym.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, I love it, and I make it like really thick. So I don't use as much water when I make the cream of rice because I'll use that. You know, you know, you understand what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, I usually throw mine in the fridge, and it cakes up. And
yeah, I like doing that too. I don't like eating hot cream of rice. It's just one of my things. I just like it cool. Like sometimes I have it before my workouts, and then sometimes my coach puts it after my workouts. So wherever it is, I always like to make sure that it's cold.
Cool.
Okay. So Cheryl, with the obviously the Masters list, you've seen who it is. Have you competed against any of these women? Are you excited? Because I know you mentioned Michelle Brandt, but is there anybody else you're excited to be with, or anything along those lines?
Honestly, I'm excited to be with all of them. Honestly, you know, and it's not a BS. I enjoy being up there with the women bodybuilders and holding my own, you know, because I'm like that little engine that could, you know, it's just like that little kid in the background that wants to be the big kid, you know, and that's the way I feel. And I just enjoy being up there. I want to give you like an example. I was at Linda Murray's show last year, and we were backstage, you know, waiting in between, you know, for getting on stage. And there were some, you know, the women bodybuilders backstage, and they were all on their phones kind of thing. And I like to talk. I just don't like to be on my phone and bored, you know, and all that. So I walk up to a few of them. The first part of my sentence, they wanted to kill me. By the second part of the sentence, they laughed, and we had a bond that was incredible afterwards. So I walk up and I go, you know, ladies, I know you're intimidated by me because you can't rock the pouch. You know where I'm coming from? Okay. So all of a sudden I had this, I'm going to kill you, to, man, that is funny. And then they started asking questions about my condition, and I, you know, gave them some information. And then we started hanging backstage and we started talking, and each one of them started telling me like a personal story about themselves. And we just had a great time. And that's the part of the bodybuilding world I love, is getting to know people. That's part of it.
You need to reach out to Michelle and kind of with your bag, you need to put some bling on it, because, you know, she has her own like jewelry line. Put some bling on the bag. You
know, I wish I could, but when I competed in Atlantic Coast in 21, I went to Tim Gardner and I said, listen, I want to make it purple because my suit was going to be purple. And he said, no, you can't do that. And according to the rules, it's kind of against the rules.
Interesting.
If you read them, it's like, I can't remember exactly what it says, but you can't wear anything like extra kind of thing. And he was saying like putting a bag over a bag might go against that. Might
detract from your abs or something. Might detract from your physique or something.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, but when I can't remember the right verbiage, but at the time when I was reading it, I'm like, I could see his point, so I didn't pursue it any further.
I would have asked for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah.
I would have just done it.
Well, that's true, you know, because at that show, you know, I was just like, hey, I'm just grateful to be up there. So, yeah, I should have done it for that one. What was I going to say? But anyway, yeah, Michelle is going to make some jewelry for my suit, and we talk often, and she's just a wonderful person. And she told me a personal story about a good friend of hers. And I don't want to tell that story because that's her story to tell. But when she told me, we basically just cried, you know, and it was like me being on stage with her was meant to be at Tampa Pro. It was just like one of those, you know, surreal moments, and we'll always have that bond. That'll never end.
So we're what, 9 weeks out, Vin, or Cheryl's at 9 weeks out for the show?
Shy of 8.
Saturday and Sunday this weekend is 8 weeks out.
Okay. So Cheryl, how are you feeling? How are you feeling now? You on point? How are you feeling? How are you looking?
I am feeling fantastic. I'm telling you seriously. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not tired like crazy, because with my condition, I fatigue so quickly. It's crazy. But mentally, I'm just like, let's do this. I'm ready to bring it. I feel that I'm gonna be in the best shape I've ever been, even before all of this, stuff happened to me. I think I'm gonna be the best shape I've ever been in my life.
So, with us winding down here a little bit, coming to the end, how can people reach you? Instagram, Facebook? Do you have a website?
Instagram would be the best place. IFBB Pro Cheryl Mears.
How do you spell your last name?
Place. MEARS.
It's for the audio listeners. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. And Facebook?
I go by Cheryl Mears on Facebook.
All right, cool.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Let's give a shout out, obviously, to Clay, because again, you mentioned Clay, who's your trainer. I've known Clay for years. And do you have multiple Unmatched Nutrition stores, or is it just the one?
Just the one.
Okay. Because I don't get a. Go ahead.
What is Clay's Instagram?
Unmatched Nutrition.
Unmatched Nutrition.
Unmatched Nutrition. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And I just have to say, it's been a game changer being with him and the team, because it's like a family, and it's made such a difference that when I go in the gym, I don't question, like, is this really the right plan? Am I doing the right things? Kind of thing. I could focus on my training and focus on this, having to deal with this.
Yep.
And that's where I've really become so much better, because when you're confident in what you're doing, you can just go to that next level. And that's where I'm at right now. I remember when we were prepping for Tampa Pro, and I was just all over the place. Like, I was tired. I wasn't really seeing my physique, but I trusted him 100%. I would see him every week. We would pose and everything. And he looked at me and he goes, "How do you feel?" And I go, "Honestly, I'm tired as fuck." I just said that to him. And he goes, "You don't realize how good you look, do you?" And I go, "I'm trusting everything that you're telling me right now, because I'm blinded by the fact that I'm going on stage, and everything I do is dedicated to that." So I wasn't even focused on anything else. What you're doing, what you're telling me is everything. And I remember being told that I was on stage, and they said, turn to the back and, do your back double. And there were some friends that we've known for many, many years. They've seen me come up the ranks, and my backside from the lower, my glutes, were always a sore subject. I was always told it's your age, that kind of stuff. So I turned around, did the back double, and Clay said, everyone in the room just shut up and went, "Damn."
Yeah,
and
cool.
When he told me that, I was like, "You're kidding me." And he goes, "No, people that seen you for years go through your struggles were amazed and were asking me, how the hell did she do that?" And it was just training, nutrition, and the right plan. That's what it was.
Well, you got to bring that to Romania in 8 weeks, and
yep,
write another chapter of your life right there. So
yes,
we're so blessed and honored to have you on tonight. We're grateful to hear your story. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, definitely. And Vinny, for people that joined late, I know you have a new Instagram again. What is the handle again for your new Instagram account?
Yes, I got hacked. Bastards. I can't believe this. It's Vinny_Galanti_ at
Perfect.
Instagram. Yeah.
I remember seeing the post where it was like the car, and I said, "There's no way in heck Vinny would have posted that."
I don't think I've ever posted one personal thing ever on social media, and people coming up to me at work at the gym and they're like, "You bought a car?" I'm like, "No, I got hacked."
Yeah. Vin, I love you, but you're not. You've admitted this. You're not very technologically savvy. And when I started seeing crypto, I'm like, "This is not Vinny."
Nope.
Nope. So, but anyway, folks, as always, thank you so much for tuning in to the Masters Muscle podcast. Next week, it is a vacation for the 4th of July, but the week after, we have powerlifter Ed Cohen joining the show. As always, thank you so much. Have a great week.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.